chosen trigger. They laughed at my side hustle until it made more than their jobs. Set up. I was a hopeful, hard-working man with strong bonds to those who would betray me. The partner I counted on, my wife Elena, and a mentor I trusted. I believed in loyalty and craft. We built a small design studio from scratch in a room that smelled of fresh paint and coffee, with a chair that wore my name. I did the early work, paid the bills, drank the cold water from the faucet, and I kept quiet when others boasted of bigger plans. The people around me were simple, yet they seemed solid. A partner who shared the risk, a wife who shared the fear, a mentor who shared the wisdom. Our bond felt like a wall of iron. The days were long but hopeful, the nights quieter, the kind that let me think about how to do better, not how to break rules. I believed in the dream because I watched it breathe. 2-2. Inciting incident. Then the betrayal came like a storm inside a glass house, in front of the whole board. Marcus, my supposed partner, stood up with a smile that did not reach his eyes and laughed at my side hustle. The little project I had poured extra hours into, the one that sat in a corner of the office like a stubborn seed. He called it a toy, a hobby, something that would never pay the bills. Elena, my wife, watched with a calm that felt like ice, and Mr. Diaz, our mentor, said nothing at first. The room shrank as he whispered a dozen little lies that sounded like truth. A week later, contracts were reworded. An old client was told I could not handle the numbers, and the investors who had promised to back us pulled away. The side hustle that had once kept me going became a reason to push me down. I was blamed for petty mistakes, for delays that never existed, for a failure that looked staged. The pain was sharp and real, and the humiliation burned in my throat each time I tried to speak. That night, I sat alone in the dark and tasted the irony of it. I had built something with my hands, only to have the very hands I trusted squeeze the life out of it. And the more people laughed at my dream, the more I believed I had failed. Rising action, but the fall did not end me. It woke me the way cold water wakes a fire. I rose with the first signs of rot in my heart, a small tremor of rage that did not want to quiet down. I started my quiet work, reading stacks of contracts, watching the market, listening to every knock in the office like a warning, and building new alliances with people who believed in the underdog. I traveled to small towns, met old clients, asked questions, and collected receipts. I studied the numbers, the real numbers, the ones that show who made the money and who took the credit. In the workshop at night, I felt the echo of laughter fade, and I heard the click of the keyboard as I typed new plans. I learned to mask my progress, to pretend I was sharpening a blade, to keep everyone guessing. I hired a quiet team of researchers who could smell a lie in a spreadsheet. I talked less in the daylight, more in whispers after hours, and I listened to how others fell when their egos got in the way. My senses sharpened, the smell of the ink in legal papers, the cold glare of the monitor, the weight of a file that held the key to my evidence. I did not go after the money first. I went after the truth, the thing that would prove the lies and restore my name. The plan grew like a seed that had learned how to survive in stone. It required patience and discipline and a stubborn refusal to quit when the night grew long. I found a few allies, people who had been betrayed themselves, and they saw what I could become if I kept moving forward. The days stretched, and I learned to live inside the silence between triumphs, letting the hurt become a map rather than a chain. Climax. The moment came not in a secret room, but in the open light of a crowded press conference. I stood where the cameras could find me, and I laid out the proofs the others did not want to see. The emails that proved the side hustle was not a toy. The numbers that proved our growth. The investor notes that had been altered. Marcus stepped forward to boast, but the room already watched him, as the slide after slide revealed his lies. Elena watched too, but not with tears. Her face showed a verdict I could not hear, but could feel. She had chosen to watch me fall, then to watch me rise. This was not a fight for pride alone. It was a fight for the truth and for the future of the people we had promised to protect. The crowd murmured, the microphones hissed, and the air smelled of coffee and fear. My voice stayed calm, steady, easy to hear. I did not shout, I explained. We had built a legal case to reclaim the project, to restore the original plan, to expose the people who use my trust to hide their own greed. Marcus tried to talk over me, to claim I had sabotaged myself. But the numbers did the talking. They spoke in a language money understands. The lies fell like old leaves, and as they did, I felt the last of the fear leave me, and behind it the taste of ash, replaced by a cool, bright resolve. The hush after the last slide was not relief, but a promise that the world would know the truth and would remember the name that stood for integrity, Lekochen, the redemption arc. In the days that followed, I did not just win back a business, I found a purpose. I turned the pain into a cause that could outlive me. I started a foundation that helps betrayed workers and partners who saw their dreams sold off for short-term gains. I wrote a book that was not about revenge, but about resilience, about how to learn from the fall and rise again with balance and clear eyes. I built a company that kept the old dream alive, but with a new spine of honesty. I taught people the hard lessons I learned, how to choose the right partners, how to guard your heart without becoming cold, how to fight for what is right even when the crowd wants you to stay down. I mentored young people who had their ideas stolen, and I showed them how to turn pain into a plan that others would imitate in good spirit. The betrayal still aches when I think of it, but now it aches like a memory that fuels forward motion instead of a wound that holds me back. The foundation did not reclaim the exact same money as the old venture, but it earned something better. Trust, a name cleared of the lies, and a network of people who believe in doing right, even when the right road is hard. I learned to sleep again, to smile at small things, to walk into a room and hold my own space without a tremor in my hands. And the bad advice I once took from the people who laughed at my side hustle became the warning I shared with others. If you ever feel the floor slip, you must rise from the roots and make the ground yield to you again. End of voice. If this story moves you, like, share, and subscribe to this channel.